Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Less Stress, More Peace and Happiness Summit. My name's Janine Wooten, and I'm your host for the summit. And we are learning so many great ideas and tips and techniques for dealing with stress and creating a more peaceful and calm state of being. So, welcome. I'm going to introduce you to someone really special today. This is a really important topic. We have Miranda Wimbush. Miranda is an intuitive life coach for humans and animals. In her many years working as a dog behaviorist, working with thousands of dog guardians desperate for someone to fix their dogs, she's discovered the magic that is created in relationships when those people tune inwards and heal their end of the leash. Now she's on a mission to spread the word and raise the consciousness level of dog guardians through self awareness. She's trained in transformational life leadership coaching, as well as Reiki and mindfulness based stress reduction, and is currently studying to become a Heart Math certified mentor. She's also a certified professional dog trainer, family dog mediator, and a veterinary technician. She offers individual and group coaching programs for dog lovers and pet pros that want to develop a heart based connection with their dogs, learn to tune inwards and follow their soul's desires, and welcome lasting peace into their lives. She believes that dogs can be the powerful catalyst for our personal awakening if we're open to the lessons that they are here to teach us. When we're present with them and watch how they mirror our experience of the world, we can not only heal our relationships with them, but experience a greater sense of well being. Her goal today is to make sure that you know that any stress you're having around your pet can be alleviated with the right understanding and a few simple practices. So please welcome with me, Miranda Wimbush. Good
Hey,
morning.
hey
How are you
everybody. It's so nice
today?
to be here. Yeah, thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a resume you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been my life passion to, help people and animals. Really started as, animal focused because animals were my everything. But the
Yeah,
more I got into it, the more I realized, wow, there's a lot about the human side that kind of
right.
gets
It's
disregarded and pushed aside.
it's
But
really
really, it's a
interesting.
relationship, right?
I love your take on it, and I know that people are going to really love it. Pet stress can be a huge real thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think about it when I set out to start the summit, but I love that we connected, and I'm so happy to add this to the lineup because, like I said, it is a real thing. I am going to
Absolutely.
give you the stage, and we're going to put your title up and dive in. So I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your background, or kind of what led you to this passion and this work that you're doing. If you would start there, I'd love to hear people's stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always had a passion and love for animals my whole life. Just, from when I was a little girl, I was that little girl who ran up to every animal on the street, and I just had this strong intuitive connection with animals.
Mm,
And I had a really hard time also connecting with people when I was young and then
mm,
kind of growing up. I was very shy. I was very introverted, and really kind of where my strong interest and passion in personal development and personal leadership
mm,
and mindfulness came in was when our son was born. And I really had an awakening where I realized I had spent a lot of my life kind of repressing my own emotional experience, running, keeping really busy. I
mm,
didn't have really any good coping strategies for stress. I
mm.
didn't have a strong understanding of my own emotions. So
Right.
it would lead to patterns of suppressing and then exploding,
Ah,
kind of going, I'm fine. Like I was the
right.
person that everyone would say, oh, you're never rattled. You're always good. And I would just be like, inside, I was just a chaotic, anxious mess. Um,
Wow.
and I really realized that my dogs had been suffering from my kind of stress. It had been showing up in their behavior, their relationships
Mm,
within each other, as well as, and then when my son was born, I saw him start to, be affected by it as well. And I was like, wow, also I had this space of time. I was like, I really need to start learning about myself, going inward. And so I started kind of this like reading spiritual kind of books and taking courses and learning about mindfulness, and just in a way that I recognized, okay, like I can't keep doing this pattern. It was this cycle of, doing things that I regretted, not behaving or not being my best version of myself, and then really being hard on myself. And so I was like, I want to be a better person for my animals, for my son, and I want to be happier. I want to be more at peace. Those things that I always thought it was what was happening to me, that life was stressful. I kept putting things in my way. And I was just reacting to everything all the time, when I realized, oh, wow, I actually have a lot of power here to relate to my experience in a different way. That's when everything started to open up.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you've continued with that path, and you've taken Reiki, and I love that you're studying heart math. I find that fascinating. I'd love to study that myself, but it's so great when someone becomes self-aware and then chooses to do something about it, and then you start to learn, but then they're still doing the work, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's great that you've done that and now tied it into the work that you do with the animals. And so I just love that. So can you tell us a little bit, you alluded to, and I've heard the phrase about mirroring, like, so your son was mirroring and the dogs were mirroring your emotion and your stress. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think children and animals mirror us much more profoundly, because they, they're innocent, right? And they're very, they're not as lost in kind of the forward and back thinking as we are, right? They're very present. And, it's always been, I've always thought of them, children and animals, as my greatest teachers in bringing things kind of up. So when you have that perspective, it's looking at it not as a negative thing, but it's going, oh, wow, what is there for me to learn or uncover or go deeper with here? So definitely, yeah, like they can kind of present with something that will trigger us. And it's when you start to get kind of going, that can be a really powerful uncovering process. Why is that so triggering? What is that coming? What is that bringing up in me? Is it like I'm fear? Is it bringing up fear, like loss of control, or being embarrassed or worrying about what other people think? And then if you can become curious about where that came from, maybe in your past or in an experience that you've had in the past, why is that so hard for you? Because if you look at it, they're not trying to do something to you. Your dog is not trying to do something to you, or is not deliberately trying to push buttons and make your life hard. They're just living their experience, doing the absolute best they can. And yeah, absolutely, because it's a relationship. Sometimes there's going to be a rub. There's going to be a lack of understanding, or a lack of communication there, and that's really an opportunity. But when we can recognize that, a lot of the time, if we're able to ground ourselves, use a tool, whatever tool that supports you, taking a deep breath, like looking around, getting more present in our bodies, we're able to be with them through that. And then we're able to respond versus react. And then it doesn't escalate. So many times it doesn't escalate. It just stops there. And we can then actually, even, when we're stressed, we can't access our brain. And so a lot of building resiliency to stress helps people be able to respond in a situation, say maybe move their dog away from something that's stressful, versus get frozen or panic or freak out, which doesn't support them.
Exactly. Kind of adds to like that vicious cycle if they're mirroring your reactions or your feelings. I love that you differentiated between reacting and responding. And so it sounds like, the work that you're helping people learn is just being able to pause and reflect before reacting and seeing it in a different light. I wonder if another reason, and you mentioned their innocence, which is so important, and why they mirror us. In addition to your explanation, I'm wondering if it's because they see us as the leader. And so, do you think that's a factor in it as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like when you're looking at having a good relationship, like who do you look up to as someone who's a leader? There are people, I know people that I've looked up to in my life that I consider leaders. They're the ones that to manage to stay calm under pressure when things are going quote unquote wrong, and they're not blaming other people or blaming the world, or they remain calm and responsible and aware, and they're able to problem solve and trouble through it. I think definitely our dogs, especially when things are a little bit all over the place, so that they rely on us to stay calm and grounded, to have tools so that then we can support them. Because if we're freaking out and we're going, oh my gosh, everything is out of control, or if we're not aware of our thoughts and we're, our thoughts are going, this is awful, this is never going to get better, and this is, catastrophizing everything, then they can sense that immediately.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it too, like, looking at kind of what those patterns are when we start to move faster and go quicker and get more jerky, like you can watch a dog just look and go, whoa, I don't want to be around you, or they start to get anxious or unsure. And just sensing that shift in energy, in your own energy. And it makes them, definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah. So they're, not just mirroring us, but they're good at reading the emotion and the body language and the situation too. I think we don't give them enough credit sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, they read us sometimes better than ourselves. Like I've had clients who, we're working on that kind of emotional awareness piece of, okay, how do you feel right now about, something like they'll be working through, and they're not sure. And it's just like, okay, actually, if you look at your dog, sometimes their dogs will indicate, how they're feeling. If their dog is anxious or avoidant, or, then they can kind of go, oh, okay, what is going on? Versus if they're calm, your dogs will naturally want to gravitate and be around you, just like you want to be around another person. You can sense that person's really, peaceful. I want to be around that energy.
Right. That's beautiful. So I was going to ask you, that was one of the questions I like to ask too. So that was you gave us an example there, but like a client, an example of a client before and after doing the work, becoming aware and choosing to do the work to just have a better relationship with the pet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to share a story of a client. Actually, she has a Doberman too. I think you have a Doberman, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's someone I worked with who she's having some behavioral challenges with her dog, and it was causing a lot of stress in her mind because there was a lot of layers of guilt, and she was putting a lot of pressure on herself to be perfect, and there was so essentially what was happening was she was just in emotional turmoil, and her dog was avoiding her, wasn't anywhere, didn't want to be around her. She could see that how she was behaving was affecting her dog and wasn't making anything better. But
it kind of starts to spiral out of control.
Yeah, and just through coaching was just through kind of bringing awareness to, she started to be a little kinder to herself, recognize that she didn't have a crystal ball. She did the absolute best she could in the situation. Just a little bit of a mindset shift around just, kind of bringing that awareness and, tuning that made a really big difference. And then she also released we did a meditation, and she released some of that heavy energy, all that guilt and self-judgment, and brought in just a little, some love and kindness towards herself. And then the cool thing that happened was that her dog shifted and started wanting to be around her again, and was a lot more, she noticed immediately her dog was a lot more relaxed and calm.
Oh, wow.
Just by, and we didn't even do anything with the dog. We didn't even,
Right.
it
It's just
wasn't about
changing.
training. It wasn't about, it was just about bringing her back to a place of being calm and centered and being kind to herself too, which is another big thing. I see a lot of times layers of guilt or shame add layers, and they block connection. And they prevent, people being able to be connected with their animals.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful example. So, I'll throw in, just since you brought it up too, we personally just rehomed or adopted an 18-month-old. She's half Doberman Pinscher and half German Shepherd. So she's large, she's strong-willed, she's had no previous training whatsoever, and she's we have trainers now, but we all agree that she's been abused in the past. So she's got extreme fear and anxiety. She doesn't trust. So we're really, we really have a lot of work to do. And she's come a long way. She's nothing but sweet. We just love her so much. She's so sweet, but we're having to really work with her to get her to know that she's safe now. We're trying to create that safe space. But at the same time, there are a lot of frustrations with trying to get her to understand, and that she has to mind. Now there's expectations in this environment. We don't know what she came from. But it's watching her come out from where it's been a month. 5 weeks. We've had her 5 weeks, but just watching her transformation just in 5 weeks, it's astounding how she's come. Just knowing that she's loved and okay here. No one's ever going to hurt her here.
Yeah, that makes such a difference,
right? You can see occasionally. You can see the heightened alertness or hypervigilance or whatever. You can see it kick in, and we live in the country, and she'll hear animals, and she's always on guard. But we can say it's okay, you're safe, and she'll just kind of calm right down. So.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for mentioning that, because that safety piece for for us and for our dogs is really, really important. And when we feel safe, we can communicate that sense of safety really, really easily. It actually, even without words, they'll sense sometimes with touch. If they enjoy touch, that can be a way to communicate. Okay.
Yeah.
But it always starts with you, right? It always starts with
exactly.
Because if you're freaking out, or you're unsure, or you don't feel safe or grounded, and then you're just going, you're okay, you're fine, don't worry about it.
So you're saying these words, but the energy's up here.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, they sense that right away. They're not really tuned in as much to coming out of your mouth as to just how you're being, really.
Right.
Yeah, but that's amazing progress in a month. So well done.
It really is. She's so smart, and she wants to please. She really does. You can see she does. But the first week, both of us were, bloody and bruised, just because she wasn't being aggressive, but she just so excitable and had no limits whatsoever. And we really were second guessing whether or not we could do it. But already, already we're seeing so much progress, and she's so sweet. I'll share one other quick example about the safety thing, which kind of, it was an aha moment for me. So we have cattle, and we're fenced in. So and she's bred to herd. So she runs the fence and tries to herd them. And it's just a constant. It's a constant. And it creates anxiety within us, because she pushes herself to the point where we think she's just going to drop. So anyway, a scene was happening with the cattle, and my fiance went out there and basically got between her and the cow that was charging the fence.
Oh, wow.
And hit on the fence with a stick and made the cow go away. And instantly I saw her calm down. And so it was almost as if she's like, oh, I don't have to be the one protecting the property. Someone else has my back too, is the way I read it. It was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's an interesting observation. And just, if we're able to remain calm, but aware, and, dogs really do look to us to be that sense of safety, and to let them know that they're okay. And there can be a lot of insecurity created sometimes if they feel that they have to control everything.
Right.
they actually want to have somebody who's going to support them and help them learn and really meet their needs so that they can just relax and chill
exactly.
and be happy.
Exactly. That's what we want, right? We want them to feel loved and happy and safe in their place. You touched on control, and it triggered another question in my mind about when you're training. Like, is it kind of a mutual thing then? I don't even know how I'm asking. Like, where is our goal to control the dog's behavior? I mean, is that a bad way of saying it? Or obviously they have to know that they have to listen, but you don't want to get the stress involved if they're not listening. So what would you say to someone struggling with that? Not that it's me.
No, I completely get you. So I always start with just really making sure that all of their needs are met.
Right.
That's the biggest source of stress, where people are pulling their hair out and going, this dog's out of control. I always look at, like, are they getting regular nature time? Are they able to move their bodies? Are they getting something to exercise their brain so that they're, mentally stimulated? Do they feel safe? In their environment? Are there things that are in their world that are really contributing to their stress load? So that's where I always start. Because a dog that feels safe, has its needs met, they need way less control and way less of needing to constantly tell them what to do, because they naturally modulate their behavior. And they naturally settle and relax and chill out, provided they have a lot of outlets. So an example of that is, like, okay, so you take your dog out, on a walk in the woods and they get to stretch their body and everything. Then they come back and they have something to chew for 30, 40 minutes. They're just going to pass out and have a nice, rest. Versus if that doesn't happen, then you're going to be micromanaging and, they're going to be getting into things and you're going to be getting stressed out and all of this. So that's the really important piece to start. And then so I always look at how can we work with their natural instincts versus against them. Give them an outlet also. Like, say you have a herding dog, that's a really important biological need that they have to control something. So it might not be cows, but it might be a ball, or it might be something that they can control the movement of.
I see.
And then from there, anything that we do need to teach them, I do that in a positive way. So looking at motivating them versus kind of setting them. And also sometimes that means limiting a bit of freedom in the beginning too. Like, we have a herder too. And when he was young, he wasn't just free rein in the house. He was with me on a leash, or tethered to something if I couldn't watch him. Because if we give our dogs way too much freedom and don't set kind of boundaries in place, then it can create a situation where we're frustrated and stressed out. Want to punish them and getting upset, and then now that undermines the relationship. Absolutely. So
how long do you think it takes them to acclimate to the new environment then, if anybody who has a rescue and they don't know what's the situation has been before? How do you have a general rule of thumb?
Weeks? There is, in rescue, there's a kind of they say kind of like, there's a rule of 3 where it's like 3 days for them to land, like in your space, 3 weeks for them to start to acclimate, and then 3 months for them to settle. My experience, it's longer, definitely. I would say a 6-month mark for them, kind of just because you're learning a lot about them. They're learning about you. It's a whole new environment. Then if there's any level of trauma or abuse involved, then that adds more time. So absolutely. It takes time.
Right. I can't imagine anyone being abusive to an animal. I just can't even imagine, There's, like you said, they're so innocent. I can't. What about, you also mentioned triggers. When you talk about emotional triggers, are you talking about in the people, the guardians, or the pets, or both?
So I look at both. right? So definitely our dogs will trigger us in different ways. And if personally, if we can look at that and go, okay, what does that bring up in us? You know, when we're triggered, it is an opportunity to heal something, to kind of brings it up to the surface. And if we can like start to be aware of what emotion that brings up and why it brings up, we can then start to work with it, versus just go into blaming them for making, no one can make us react. But sometimes it is a trauma trigger for us. If something, when something comes up really fast, it's like we don't feel like we have any conscious control. We just react. But it's a good sign that something wants to be healed. And
right.
And if you can bring awareness to it, and whatever way that looks like for you, maybe it's journaling about it, or speaking to someone about it, or just kind of getting curious about why that is. Definitely.
Right.
And
I think just your talk is going to be super helpful for a lot of people about creating awareness. Just hearing you explain the process and why it's important and how to begin to work with it. I think that's going to be really empowering, just to give people that moment to pause and say, wait a minute, what's going on here within me?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
I love that.
It's so important to be aware of that. Like, we're not blank slates and they're not blank slates, right? So for instance, with my guy right now, my previous dog didn't like other dogs. So when I introduced him to other dogs, I have to be really conscious of really not projecting and staying really present, breathing, being just present with him in this moment, and not in my past, and not in and work through that gradually, and also supported myself to go, okay, let's be around some other dogs in positive ways, so that I'm not the one that's triggering a reaction from him by me being anxious and unsure and projecting that onto the situation.
Right. So it's almost like the what do they call it in school? Where the kids fulfill the teacher's expectations. Like if the teacher thinks it's going to be an A student or somebody who's going to be a problem in the class. So they are picking up on your energy and your projections and your anticipation of how it's going to go. And so if you can calm yourself, then it helps calm them in the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Yeah, so much of it. I've had, worked with people where just getting them to take a deep breath, let the tension out of their body, relax the leash, has completely changed how the dog responded in a situation.
Wow.
Because they're picking up so many things. And then we got the person to consciously relax. Then it shifted so many things just in the way the dog behaved. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that. I know that you must be find the work that you do so fulfilling and so rewarding.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally do. And it's really neat to be able to combine my passions for animals and mindfulness and self-awareness, everything in together, and really support people, and seeing that there's a path forward, and that they can get to that. Really, what a lot of people want is peace and just connection, and to feel love, and don't understand sometimes what blocks that.
Right. So doing the work on yourself, someone going inside and doing the work on themselves, then is going to spread to the relationship with the pet and just make that a whole lot more peaceful too.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
I definitely see the more that people become self-aware and connected with themselves, that translates and has this beautiful ripple effect. And it, because dogs spend so much time with us, you'll see it a lot in their relationship with the dog. And it takes a lot of pressure off to the dog, because I do definitely find that sometimes people get dogs with very high expectations. Maybe they're lonely, or, like they lost a partner or something, or something like really prompted them to bring a dog almost to fill a void. And I see this because I definitely did this in my life as well. But when you learn to understand yourself, support yourself, be kind to yourself, you're aware of your own emotional, physical experience of the world, you can support yourself and meet your own needs, love yourself, and you're not dependent on anyone else, and you're not dependent on your dog to kind of do that for you. And then that creates a lot less pressure on them, where they can be who they need to be in the world, and not constantly being, feeling like they've got to be supporting you all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I can totally see that too. And that made me think of one more thing. And unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time. There's so many questions I could ask, but we had a dog previously that was a Rottweiler mix. She lived to be 16 and 4 months. Yeah. So, and she was honestly the easiest, like absolutely never one issue. And she passed 5 years ago, and it left a void for sure, but we weren't at all ready. So now we've got this one who's so much work. And so it's hard. And I know I'm not supposed to, but I was going to say, like, you can't compare, you can't compare. So that's something I'm having to work through. Is it's a completely different being. And she's wonderful in her own right, but we're just having to learn how to help her. And so this has been so good for me, and I know it's going to be really good for a lot of other people too. Could you give people one little action step, like a simple thing? Well, you've already mentioned a couple, but is there one thing that you would say that would be really, really helpful if there starts to be a stressful situation escalating, or they're living in an environment where the dog, they don't have the relationship that they would like to have with the dog? Just couple little takeaways maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a great place to start is just remembering that any relationship gets better if you just spend some simple time. So even just something as really simple as sitting with your dog, just appreciating them, not necessarily sitting and petting them, but just sitting next to them, taking some deep breaths. Maybe it's, sit outside, so you're out in nature together. Just that simple, like where there's no expectations.
Right.
You're not asking them to sit and lie down and stay. And I find a lot of the time we spend with our dogs is trying to get them to do something for us. And really our relationship is built on connection. It's built on time. It's built on those moments where there's not pressure.
Right.
And get curious about what they love, like what brings them joy. Because if you start to find that, maybe they love to chase bugs, or my guy loves to catch bubbles, or, like these little things that they do, especially like where you're saying bonding with a new dog and it's not your old dog. It's like getting curious. What, I want to learn about you. What makes you tick? What brings you joy? Because if you start to find that, that's your magic. Where you'll start to form that connection, and those little cute little things, those silly things that they do will become, and you can maximize that. You can watch that connection and bond grow.
I love that. Those are both beautiful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And then I know that you have a gift for the listeners. I'm going to put the title up and let you explain that a minute before we have to say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I recommend to everybody that I work with is just starting a mindfulness practice. So mindfulness is essentially being aware of the current experience without judgment, and definitely tuning into your breath and your awareness, your awareness of your body as well. And you can do this with, either by yourself, or you can do it in the presence of your dog. If you do it by yourself, they'll definitely sense that you're relaxing. And some dogs will just naturally gravitate and join you. So I have a guide for you to just get started with some really simple heart-centered breathing. And then I have a couple of pre-recorded meditations for you to do as well. To just give you a kickstart. I know a lot of times people get really stressed out about starting. Am I doing it right? When starting to meditate. But it really doesn't have to be that complicated. It can be something you do in 30 seconds. Just take a quick mindful moment, and it can make a really big difference in reducing your overall stress and increasing your joy.
I love it. Love it. And I know that people are going to take advantage of that. And by the way, we'll have a link below the video. We'll have a link where you can access that gift where the listeners can access that gift. So yeah, I just wanted to bring you back on and say thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I love the talk. I've learned a lot that I'm going to put to use right away.
Beautiful. So glad
I
to
have
hear
a very immediate need. So
that.
that's
Mhm.
the timing was perfect, but I know it's going to help a lot of others as well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the opportunity for creating this, this discussion about how we can have more peaceful lives.
Yes, exactly. And I love that, part of the reason for doing the summit is just given everything that's happened globally
Mm-hmm.
over the last few years. And people are still affected. And I think a lot of
Absolutely.
people are feeling stuck still, or they weren't raised with the knowledge that, for instance, I was raised by a psychiatrist. And so raised with transactional analysis and, a little bit more awareness than maybe the next person.
Mm-hmm.
But so people just basically don't have the coping skills. And we've been under so much sustained stress, isolation, fear, in so many different areas for a long time. And so that's why I decided to put on the summit and just curate all these great topics in several different ways, many different ways that we can reduce stress, bring more peace and happiness and calm into our lives. And so it's going to be great. I love every one of the topics, and every one of the speakers have been fantastic. So I just want to thank you again. And I love the work that you're doing, and I know you must really enjoy it too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for letting me be part of this event.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.